back to the Dragon's Den. I'm your host, SinDragonLord, and this is the Global Pokemon Society Invitational Tournament. This is slightly different than normal Draft League. However, we still had to draft our teams, but it was handled just a little bit differently than normal. Rather than basing each Pokemon on a specific tier list and picking a certain number from each tier, we had a currency system put in place. We had 100 points to spend, and each Pokemon had a point value associated with them. So you kind of got to pick some more, some more really great Pokemon on team rather than like one really amazing one really good one, and then like a couple of mediocre ones and some bad ones. You actually kind of got to mold your team and have some really solid team structured due to the point system. So the way that this is being handled is being hosted by, obviously, your current commissioner, Ryan of the Boston Braviaries, who is stepping down after this tournament concludes, where I will be taking over as commissioner. But in his last tournament, he wants to go out with a bang. So basically, there's cash prizes involved. You start off with 10 points, and if you win a match, you get 5 points. You get 2 chances in the 10 weeks to double up, so you can wager 10 points instead of 5. And then the amount of points that you have at the end of the season, you get in cash value. So that's pretty neat. Oh, what else is there to mention? All I can think of at the moment. I may go into more details as I think of them in later videos. But anyway, without using up too much more time, let's just go ahead and get right into our team. So the team that we drafted is we drafted Great Tusk, King Gambit, Rabombi, Decidueye, the Boy Medicham, Gastrodon, Iron Moth, Lefkey, Umbreon, and Rotom Frost. Now, there is one specific Terra rule that should be addressed. Only Pokemon with less than 10 points can Terrastalize. So for me, the only Pokemon that can Terrastalize at the moment are Decidueye, Medicham, Lefkey, Umbreon, and Rotom Frost. Those are the only ones that can Terra. So you'll see that in the weeks, or the upcoming weeks, as you see different team structures, and how some teams just wanted the most broken things they could get their hands on, and Terrastalization be damned. Now, some people actually took good Terra choices into consideration when building their team. So anyway, yeah. So that's just going over the team that we got. Let's move on to our opponent this week in week 1, which will be Paris St Germignon, and their electric terrain team. You can already see our predictions on the right hand side over here. But yeah, they're one of those teams that did not give a damn about like Terra-ing that much. So they just loaded up their team with, electric terrain and things that can, and future paradoxes that will reap the benefits of the terrain. As well as an off-color choice being Goldango, but I mean, Goldango's Goldango. Like, ain't nobody questioning the Goldango pick. But he also got a Alolan Raichu for that Search Surfer ability to abuse with the electric terrain as well. And then we got Rotom Frost and Pachirisu as well. So the first thing I want to say about this team is that it's got a very glaring ground weakness. I mean, Goldango, Iron Treads, Iron Hands, Alolan Raichu, Pachirisu, Pincurchin, all those have a glaring ground weakness. And the only two, there's actually technically 3. There's 3 Pokemon on this team that kind of get around that weakness, and that is Iron Leaves, Iron Jugulis, and Rotom Heat with that Levitate ability. So he does kind of have some options to offset that weakness. However, it's still a pretty glaring weakness. The Iron Valiant is probably the scariest thing on his team, if I'm being honest. Uh, Mostly because the dual stab combination, and if it does have any sort of psychic moves on it, kind of covers my team perfectly. I'm covering for that the best that I can this week, but that could still become a problem if it gets out of hand. So let's just get on to the team composition that we're bringing this week. As you can see on the left hand side, we're bringing Great Tusk, King Gambit, Metacham, Klefki, Ribombee, and Iron Moth. So I'm bringing the Great Tusk because, like I said, the team is very, very weak to ground. So Great Tusk arguably being the best ground type in the metagame. It just should go without saying that it should be on the team. But it's also got access to rocks and rapid spin, which is fantastic because we can set up hazards and get rid of opposing hazards, which um, you know could be from the iron treads, which could be from the big Kirchen that gets spikes and toxic spikes. Um, so that'll be really handy as well. And then just Earthquake and Ice Spinner. I opted not to go for fighting coverage because I already have Metacham for that. And also, I felt like the Ice Spinner was really solid into the answers to the ground weakness. So it makes it to where it's not as safe of a switch in because both Iron Jugulus and Iron Leaves are weak to ice. And then if he does bring the Rotom, I mean, we'll deal with that when we get to it. But this is what I'm predicting him to bring. It's the first week, so I anticipate him just going all out with the Paradoxes and Pincurchin. So, anywho, and we also got heavy duty boots on it just because its main purpose outside of just spamming earthquakes is to remove hazards if need be. Then we got the King Gambit. So also we're going with an assault vest this week. In depending on the matchup, we could opt to go like black glasses and like sword stance instead, which is typically better when you have screen supports, say via Klefki. But this week I felt like having the additional coverage of low kick would be beneficial. Because the Iron Treads could pose a problem to it having a decent defense stat and resisting Iron Head and being neutral to its other coverage moves and being faster and hitting super effectively with Earthquake. So in a 1v1 situation, that wouldn't really look too hot for me, so that's why I opted to go Assault Vest with low kick instead. And then, excuse me, we got Ribombee. So the whole reason I went with Ribombee in the draft was because I wanted something with Sticky Web, and this is by far the best Sticky Web setter in the game. And the typing of Bug Fairy isn't the worst either. The only downside is it was 1 point away from being able to Terrasilize, but we can't Terra the Bee. But yeah, we got Sticky Web, Quiver Dance, Draining Kiss, and Bug Buzz. I was torn between Stun Spore and Quiver Dance, but ultimately I decided on Quiver Dance just because Stun Spore is a little inaccurate. I may change that up in later weeks. I might change it up this week, depending on how I feel about it. But yeah, that's the route we decided to go for that, and we went with a Focus Sash. That way we can guarantee that the Sticky Web will go up, or that we're guaranteed at least one turn of Quiver Dance. So then we got our boy, the man, the myth, the legend, Metacham. So we're going with a Choice Scarf set this week. And normally I would have at least close combat, maybe psychic stab if it's necessary, one coverage move and trick. But this week I decided that I wanted to have more coverage, and since I'm going Terra Ground this week, to take full advantage of the fact that excuse me, to take full advantage of the fact that he's weak to ground, pretty weak to ground anyway. So I decided to go that route instead of trick. I may opt to swap out Fire Punch for Trick or Ice Punch, depending on how I feel about the matchup. I just wanted to be able to hit, again, kind of a similar concept with Great Tusk, being able to hit things on that are that you can't just spam ground attacks on like the Iron Jugulars or the Iron Leaves. Just being able to hit them super effectively or just hit them for good damage is going to be kind of important to me, I feel like. So yeah, that's that. And then we go on to Klefki. Uh, Standard dual screens with Thunderwave and Foul Play. Um, with Thunderwave, I feel like that could be either Thunderwave or Spikes. That may change week to week. That may change this week, but for right now, I feel like with, you know, the Iron Valiant, the Iron Jug, or the not the Iron Jugulars, it's immune to Prankster Thunderwave, and the Iron Leaves rather. I feel like the Thunderwave might be important. But for sure, if I put Stun Spore on the Rabombi, I will definitely be putting Spikes on the Klefki. So just keep that in mind. I'm still kind of on the fence about some things. And then finally, we got the Iron Moth. So his team is also not that great against fire as well. And his terrain also benefits the Iron Moth as well. So I figured, why not bring it? And then we got Agility, Fiery Dance, Sludge Wave, and Energy Ball. So in theory, it does resist both of Iron Valiant stabs, and the only way that it would be able to touch Iron Moth at all is if he decided to throw Psychic coverage on it, which is possible. I am keeping that in mind, but in theory, Iron Moth should be able to do just fine into the team, I think. Being able to deal with the Treads pretty easily. In theory, being able to deal with the Valiant, the Leaves, you know, it should be a fun time had by all. Alright, that's all. I don't want to go too much into the intro here, so let's just go ahead and get into the battle portion of this video right out